And Tyvis, so the Browns obviously have three safeties they really like, including EMW, right? Is that we got to
Iman.
get a
E-Man, that's his nickname.
I
Is
call
that
it
what it
Man.
is?
It's Man. I
Yeah.
say Man all the time.
Yeah,
Iman?
Eman.
Eman?
Eman.
Yeah, EMW doesn't work.
Nah.
So we got three safeties, including E-Man, who they just drafted. What's the game plan? If you're running the Browns defense, are you playing all three or no? What's the deal there, Tyvis?
I think I definitely mix it up with the nickel spot. I think E-Man is just too talented at getting the football and creating takeaways that you can't not have that guy on the field. Similarly to a Tyrann Mathieu, not as far as like body movement, but as far as the ability to be a football player and create takeaways. You have to get that type of guy on the field. You create positions for him. So the nickel spot is obviously the best one. Even with Jim Schwartz, they ran a three safety look last year and all years prior too. With what's the safety that came from Philadelphia? McLeod, bang! Look at that! Look at you, Earl. You always prepare. Anyways, so it's already there. This team is already used to running a three safety look, and I think with E-Man, you can put him in coverage. I think he's the best one when it comes to guarding a receiver. I think he's the best one in that category. Plus, you just always have to know if you're a post safety, you have to have that guy protecting him. So what I would do is I would tell E-Man, hey, you got this slot receiver anywhere outward breaking routes, all outside breaking routes, line up on the outside, check him on the outward breaking routes. If he does the inward breaking route, you got a linebacker as a whole player and you got a post safety. So you got help inside. If you get that in his head that his help is on the inside, he'll feel much more comfortable being able to guard people. But then on top of that, you're more stout in the run game. You got a guy who could come in and make tackles rather than that nickel that might be a corner body. You got a guy that's willingly able to get in there. If you remember, because I don't know exactly what Coach Rudy's doing, but if he's going back to that Joe Woods type defense, you remember when G New and him got into it and he didn't want to play nickel, it was because that nickel was a part of the run fit too much and he didn't want to be a part of that. Jim Schwartz did a really good job of running the defense where the nickel was out of the run fit. If they're going back to that Joe Woods style defense, then that nickel has to be able to come up and make those tackles. You're better off doing it with a safety in that spot. Not all the time, but most times on first and second down mainly. So I think that it would be good to be able to utilize him in that one because you're more stopping the run.
Tyvis, did E-Man do that? Did he play that kind of role at all, as far as you know, at Toledo?
So he more so played like an off safety. So he played man, but he was off like 8 to 10 yards, which essentially is a nickel. A nickel plays about 7 to 8 yards off. So he has experience doing that. But like I say, because these slot receivers is really shifty and really fast. But again, if you tell me all you have is up and out, I can do that because I will be more comfortable being able to handle those routes, knowing that if he runs a slant, a dig, a post, somebody else is going to be there to help me with that.
Yo, Ty, so I was reading this morning that, the three safety look will be heavily a part of the Browns 2026 defensive scheme. And Andrew Berry was talking about that the NFL defensively is trending more towards this positionless defensive philosophy. And he was talking about, how do we get here? A lot of these playmakers on the offensive side of the ball are much bigger, much faster. And when you talk about like tight ends that's coming across the middle, you want to be able to have a guy that can do two things, that can put a hit on you, but at the same time cover you. And the article was just talking about how you take that third linebacker out, you insert that hybrid who can play nickel, can play up in the box. And I immediately started thinking about, okay, well, I can see a lot of packages where it's three safeties and then you got Carson Schlesinger and Quincy Williams. That's very, very appealing. How long have you seen this trend towards a three safety look throughout the NFL, landscape when it comes to defensive philosophy?
Well, I think it starts with like Kyle Hamilton. I mean, he was like one of the first guys that with that Baltimore defense, it just revolutionized it. And they was able to put him in the box. They was able to put him on the line of scrimmage. They was able to put him back in the post, to the point where a lot of guys didn't know what he was doing, and then you think about last year, McNeil-Warren was the guy that everybody just like, who is this guy? Because Seattle did a really good job of putting him anywhere. He was blitzing. He was in coverage. He was doing playing man. Like he did all of those things. So now as we look at the game of football, we know that the linebacker, traditional linebackers, we talking back in the early 2000s, your linebacker had to be 250 plus, 6'3", 6'4", 250 plus. Brian Urlacher, Ray Lewis, guys like that, right?
Tyvis Powell.
No, don't do me like that. There now. I'm definitely there now. But no, then you see that linebacker position start to slim down. Now you get the Fred Warners, who's 230, but can run 4.5 and stuff like that, be able to cover because the tight ends became a huge weapon in the offense. So now you wanted those linebackers to be able to check those running backs and those tight ends. So now you're telling me we can take a linebacker out and we can run essentially a dime package. You say a Quincy Williams. Well, what if we ran Miles Harden and had Nick or E-Man out there as the linebacker? We can do that because if he's able to come up and tackle, now we got the coverage part down packed and we got a guy that can also run and be in the fits. So now we got more speed on the field to be able to check these tight ends, and it's not as mismatches that with the linebacker out there. So to me, essentially, it seems like we're finding a way to put these safeties to be essentially the new linebackers in the game, but you better have a good defensive line, which the Browns typically have when Malik Collins is healthy.
Maybe you just answered this, but is there a future for all three of them here? Because I kind of looked at E-Man coming on as the end of Delpit, but maybe that was inaccurate. Can you keep all three long term?
Depends on what Delpit is going for. I mean, Delpit is getting up there in age, and the one thing with Delpit is that he gets hurt. I mean, he's missed probably on average 1 to 2 games a season, which I know Denzel does the same thing. But Delpit has streaks. Where sometimes he plays as he's one of the best safeties in the game, but then he has moments where you don't even recognize that he's there. I think with E-Man, you get a little bit more ball production. Again, I point to the PBUs, I point to the forced fumbles, and I point to the interceptions. Takeaways is the thing that you're looking for. Always a way to get the ball back. And the one thing that he does bring to that is that. But Grant Delpit, to me, is like very smart at the game. I mean, that guy puts in a lot of film work. He understands what an offense is trying to do. He does a great job of manipulating the coverage to the quarterback, so they don't know exactly what's going on, and to bait them into making passes that they don't necessarily want to make. So there's always a spot for guys like that. But to me, they draft the E-Man to replace one of those safeties, whether that be Ronnie or Grant Delpit, and I think he's more of a box safety, so it probably would be Delpit.
Yeah, I'm in line with you. I know last year I felt like was Grant Delpit's best year of his career. And I thought that Ronnie Hickman really kind of solidified himself as that safety that can play deep, allow, Grant Delpit to play more free mentally closer to the line of scrimmage. And now you bring in E-Man, who kind of fits more of that box safety profile. So it'd be interesting to see how the Browns play that out. Because I think we talked about this on the Final Cut, how you look at where Delpit is as a safety, it's not like he's like elite, but he's not bad either. And when you somewhere in the middle, I think that's a situation to where Andrew Berry might try to kind of, get that resource back via the draft. But since we talking DBs, the Browns defense look good. Kenny Moore is still out there, a guy who kind of made his name in the nickel. Do you think the Browns should probably kick the tires on bringing him to training camp with this team?
I think they definitely should look at it. I mean, I think you look at Miles Harden, and Miles Harden was a guy that was a young guy at the position last year. Everybody remembers him from 2 years ago when he was a rookie. I think he was, a 6th or 7th round pick. Very scrappy guy on the outside, but now that you put him on the inside, he's had – I don't know how much he's played nickel in his career, but he had a lot of missed assignments, and he had some times where teams were going after him. And if he's, not willing to stand up and make those plays – then you got to look at a guy like Kenny Moore, who's excelled in this league and made some plays in this league, and who is considered as one of the best nickels at a certain time in this league. Obviously Kenny Moore comes with a price, which also go back to the Delpit thing. At the end of the day, Jason, I think it ultimately comes down to what Delpit's asking price is past this season. If it's something that he has a great season and his numbers through the roof, you're gonna let him walk because you got his replacement there that you believe in. But if it's something on the low ball side, you absolutely bring him back and he could be that Rodney McLeod, because again, you can't You can't put a price on a guy that understands the game of football, that can teach a young guy like E-Man, hey, watch out for this. The best thing you could do as a safety and as a linebacker is alert the guys around you of what you see. And that's the one thing in the secondary that bothers me, is that they don't share the information. If you know something, get known. This is what's about to come. Hey, alert, watch this.
Yeah.
Because even if it doesn't happen, that linebacker or that corner is at least anticipating, oh, this might happen. You might know something. And I still feel some type of way about the verbiage and the communication in the secondary. Still needs to get better. But to answer your question about Kenny Moore, they absolutely should kick the tires on Kenny Moore. I definitely, if it was up to me, I would bring him in and let him be a starting nickel for a year. You know, the one guy, who's your guy, Bull from Cincinnati, the nickel that was really good, that went to Pittsburgh? What's his name? Mike Hilton. I would give him that type of role. Mike Hilton, everybody thought he was done after he left Cincinnati, and he still was pretty decent, you know, or when he left Pittsburgh and went to Cincinnati, whatever he did.
Right, yeah.
He was even there. So I think Kenny Moore still knows that, because he understands the game, and he's still pretty agile for his age.
One thing on Delpit, you remember it was a couple years ago, we had just started the show, and there was a play. I remember you saying you put your heels on the goal line and you let the play take you in, and Delpit totally blew it. You remember this?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like he hasn't had bonehead moments like that since then. Like, I think he's really grown in terms of the last couple of years.
He does a great job of growing every year. To me, like I say, I know for a fact he probably got cussed out in the meeting. He probably told him exactly what I told you. You never let a wide receiver beat you into the end zone. Because you want to be, because a lot of the game, it's you want to be on top of the route. You always want to be on top of the route. But when you get in the red zone, it's flip. You want to be underneath. You want to be ball me man, right? To make the quarterback have to throw the ball through you when you get down to that red zone. And it's, if your mindset has to change, and a lot of people, it don't click for them because they're so used to, hey, I'm gonna stay on the top of this route, that you give up touchdowns and stuff like that. So, you know, like I say, Delp has been in this game for many, many years. He's been with the Browns. He seems like he likes to be in Cleveland. I have no doubt that he wants to be here. And this is the last year on his contract. Due to the fact that this is a contract year, you're going to get a guy who's locked in. He's probably going to make a ton of plays this year because he wants to make himself enough money, whether that comes from the Browns or somebody else. I do think that the Browns kind of hedged they bet a little bit by getting E-Man, just in case. It's like, hey, we got a guy just in case that we think highly of. Just in case you demand too much money, it's not no deal to us. We still got another guy that can come in. So really great deal Pitt this year. Outside of him balling to make his money, is also to get E-Man ready just in case, you know, he has to become the starter for next year and years to come.
Ty, of course, we lost Jim Schwartz. This is Mike Rutenberg's first year as a DC, but as a position coach, he's produced Pro Bowl defensive backs, and the DBs are one of the strengths of this team. Granted, knowing Jim Schwartz is not here, but talk about the match and how confident you might be knowing what Mike Rutenberg can do with the defensive back position, and then seeing where the NFL is trending at, where the DB seems to be more of a priority.
It's going to be a big year for the secondary, because the secondary mindset also has to change. You know, this is a secondary who's accustomed to, I only got to cover for 3 or 4 seconds. Miles is getting there. You know what I'm saying? Now that Miles is gone, you're truly going to be tested. So a lot of sacks this year, if they don't run like blitz packages and stunts and twists that confuse the offensive line, if you want to go back to the basic, we going to rush 4 men and think we're going to get a sack, that means the secondary will be tested strongly this year. We're going to find out. You know, Tyson Campbell is a guy who's susceptible to double moves. Denzel Boston, what is the first play that you remember when you realize, oh, Denzel Boston is good? It's when he hit a stuttering goal on Tyson Campbell in practice and bombed him for a touchdown. That was so therefore Tyson Campbell has to be ready for that. We don't have Myles Garrett anymore, so the double moves is back on the table. You know, you look at a guy like Denzel Ward. Denzel, the reason that they got Denzel was because they wanted Myles Garrett to be able to get home. Well, now that pass rush is there, you might be asked to cover a little bit longer. I don't think people are going to go necessarily at Denzel Ward, but he has to be worried on plays breaking down, scramble drill, being able to plaster on the guy that's closer to him and be able to run with it all the way down the field. And then as far as the safeties goes, you know, you're going to put yourself, you might have to continue to back up a little bit more. We're going to run a 2 high safety look. Now you're going to have to be able to backpedal a little bit quicker, because you're going to have to hold that route just a tad bit more. Not saying that the defensive line ain't Jared Verse isn't going to come in and do his thing. I'm not saying that. Miles Garrett is Miles Garrett, and then there's everybody else. I think we all can give Miles Garrett that respect. I think that's something that this secondary has to be accustomed to. Like, hey, this might be the year that we might have to get a lot of coverage sacks where we're so sticky in protection that we're forcing that quarterback to hold the ball a little bit longer to allow those defensive ends and defensive tackles or blitzers get home. And I think that's going to be the difference in this defense this year, is that you don't necessarily have a given that Miles Garrett is there is going to get home.
By the way, Tyvis, before we go, have you heard of a basketball player named Julian Strother?
No. Who is that?
Mike, have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Is he at Ohio
Is
State?
he any good?
It's all right.
Okay.
Decent role guy. Why?
He's the guy that led Summer League in scoring last year.
Yeah, he's a rotation guy for the Nuggets on their playoff team.
Are you betting the house on Malik Thomas winning Rookie of the Year? You got that big bet?
I can't stand him. Why would you?
He played real minutes on the Nuggets last year.
Julian Strother, baby.
He played real minutes on the Nuggets.
Yeah, what did he average?
How did you bring him up for the Nuggets? I do remember him actually having a couple of games where he balled pretty well. So
what did he average per game, Mike?
He averaged eight points a game last year.
That's a good. He's on a good team. If you're getting minutes on a Nuggets team,
He played 15 minutes a game, averaged 7 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 40. Yeah, that just blew up in your face, Bull. That just
MVP,
totally blew up
baby.
in your face.
MVP. Tyvis, great stuff as always, man. We'll talk to you later.
I'll see y'all later, man. Bull,
See you, buddy.
All right, bro.
We're diving into the rough and tumble world of NBA Summer League next on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.